Today we'll be touring Jeffersonville, Indiana. Our first stop is Howard Steamboat Museum.
But where the Victorian era differs is in this house. The people who built it, Edmunds and Laura Howard, were very interested in bringing the steamboat into the house because they owned the shipyard across the street and that's what they were building. This was part of their livelihood and they were exhibiting it. So not truly Victorian on the inside at all because they had their own ideas of design. One example is this staircase. This is not what would be thought of as a Victorian staircase. This is very much a steamboat staircase, and they say, patterned after the staircase on the most famous boat and probably most lavish boat the Howards ever built, the J.M. White. And there are other features in the house that represent the steamboat at that time, and of course, they were showing off. They had enough money to build this house, to say the least. It was very expensive to build and outfit, to furnish and decorate. And they had a very busy business at that time. In fact, the 1890s was one of the busiest decades the Howards ever had. I know people think that the era of the steamboat was gone after the Civil War, but that just isn't true. They built boats until 1940. Their last boat they built in 1940. Now the Howards owned that yard for 107 years. They influenced the economy in Clark County. They influenced the employments and jobs situation in Clark County. And they influenced national history because they built boats for people all over the country. And they also built boats for people in other countries. So very much an influence at that time. Now Edmunds and Laura Howard had two sons. So when Edmunds decided to retire, his two sons, Clyde, the older one, and Jim, the younger one, took over the shipyard, and they ran it very successfully together until 1925. Edmunds retired in 1919. And then in 1925, Clyde decided to retire, and he sold his portion of the yard to his brother Jim. And Jim's wife, Loretta, became the next partner in the business, and together Jim and Loretta ran a very successful company for another 15 years before Jim was ready to retire. So it was always in the Howard family hands and in the Howard family name. And this is very unusual in the boat building business. Typically the yards lasted, a year or two. They changed hands, they're under different names. That wasn't the case here. They did own more than one shipyard, but for 107 years, it was always in the Howard name. Wow. Very amazing, and very much a piece of Clark County history. They were very well known in their time, and very wealthy in their time. So things were written about them that might not have been written about the average citizen. So you're looking at something really cool down here on the first floor. We talk a lot about the house and the family. And then upstairs, we do more with the industry of boat building. That's certainly what they were occupied with their entire lives. Now the man that started the shipyard was Edmunds' papa, James. And James passed away in 1876, and after that Edmunds took over, and after that Clyde and Jim. Alrighty, now a couple of really fun features of this house. First of all, Jeffersonville was not electrified until 1915. This house was electrified in 1893.
Oh my gosh.
That's because there's a shipyard across the street. These guys can do anything. They're always into the next best technology. So when the electric light bulb came about in 1878, they basically said, ooh, we got to have that. And they built a generator. Now this is a steam powered generator. You have to shovel coal into a boiler system that creates steam. Steam, when you put it under pressure, becomes energy. And that's how electricity came about. Well, they ran a wire from the generator across the street to the house and electrified their own house. It was the very first electrified house in Jeffersonville, or in Clark County, and was the only lighted house in this area for quite some time, as you can see. So this chandelier is a great example. Laura, Edmund's wife, Laura had a lot of ideas for design, and she knew the house was going to be electrified. So she purchased all the lighting fixtures except for two to have both electric light and the backup system. Now, electricity was different then than it is today. You couldn't have that 24 hours a day like we do. You won't hire somebody to shovel coal into a boiler system 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So by 10 o'clock at night, the electricity was off, and they relied then on the backup system. And this chandelier is a good example because the round balls that you see, both small and large, were electric light, even in 1893, just as you see them today. But the things that look like white bowls that are pointing upward are surrounding things called illuminating gas jets. Today we'd call that natural gas. So when the electricity was off, they could turn on one gas light at a time. This little fixture right here is called a gas cock. It's a valve. It opens a line to let gas come through. You light it with a candle or a match or a thing that looks a lot like acolytes use in churches, where they can extend it higher and light it from above. They wouldn't have to get on a ladder or a stool to reach the light. They could light it with an equipment, a piece of gear that was specifically designed to light things higher up. You could turn on one gas light or all gas lights and have as little or as much light as you want. Actually, a very efficient system. Now, as I mentioned, all the lighting fixtures in the house, whether it's one light or multiple lights, had both electricity and gas. It's a very unusual feature for this house. Just imagine in this time, nobody else had that, but they did here. Now, electricity was being used other places, like in Louisville, but just not in southern Indiana yet, until much later on, just like the telephone hadn't come about here yet either. Now, another wonderful feature of the house relates to a person they had hired from Germany to do work on boats. He was a wood carver, and they used him to do things in the house. And this particular mantelpiece and all the other mantelpieces in the house, this is just a great example of what people can do without power tools, without computers, and without anything mechanical to assist you in this. This was all carved out by hand using what are thought of as wood chisels and mallets. You have to have a lot of experience and a really good eye to be able to do this kind of really intricate work in a piece of wood that's hard and resisting your every effort to make it look beautiful. So believe me, the man that did all this incredible work was very, very skilled for his time. Now, the mantelpieces are one way to distinguish another feature Laura wanted. She wanted every room to tell its own story and have its own personality. So in our mansion, now we have 22 rooms in this mansion, 15,000 square feet, and we have 13 mantelpieces. And every single one of the mantelpieces is unique, one of a kind, different from all the others. You can tell he had a tremendous amount of skill. And it's one thing to look for as you go through the house, the differences in the mantelpieces. They're all works of art, but they're also works of math, physics, proportion, symmetry. They're all those things as well, besides being incredible craftsmanship. Righty, that's our introduction. Now why don't we go into each room and we'll point out a few features of the rooms and you can tell me what works for you.
Here we go into Shim's, which is located in downtown Jeffersonville. It's one of the oldest continuously operated family-owned candy business in the United States. It was opened in its present location in 1891 by Gustav Schimp, Sr. and Jr. Its candy museum and candy demonstration area offer a glimpse into the world of historic candy making, packaging, and advertising. Live candy making demonstrations are frequently given. Shim's has one of the few candy museums in the United States. It displays thousands of pieces of American candy, memorabilia, and represents decades of collecting candy equipment and artifacts. Stop by and get you some candy. Here we are coming upon the Big Four Bridge. The Big Four Bridge is located in downtown Jeffersonville. It spans across the Ohio River, connecting Jeffersonville, Indiana to Louisville, Kentucky. The bridge was completed in 1895 and updated in 1929. It remained closed for years until reopening for pedestrians and bicycle trafficking in May 2014. The bridge takes its name from the Cleveland, Cincinnati, Chicago, and St. Louis Railway, which was nicknamed the Big Four Railroad. Now, this is the area that the river stage would normally be in, but it was not there today. There's often movies and things like that you can go see at the park. Sometimes they'll have concerts down there. This is also the fishing pier, not the fishing pier, the boat docks, I'm sorry. You can come dock your boat, go fishing and boating for the day. All kinds of activities on the beautiful river. We are now coming around to the Big Four Station Park. This is at the end of the Big Four Bridge. It's a park that was opened in October 2014. It features lots of green spaces, fountains, a farmer's market on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to noon, a restroom, a bike sharing station, a pavilion, a playground, and easy access to downtown shops and restaurants. It is planned as a place that people will enjoy for everyday recreation and special events. Come down and check out the park. Here we are in the heart of downtown Jeffersonville. You can see Adrian and Company on the right-hand side. It's a nice little bakery in town. And here we're coming up on some of the government buildings. They're kind of hard to see because of the trees. On the left is some of the more historic government buildings. You can just kind of see those as we go past. There's a nice little gazebo there. They sometimes have singings, or I've even seen weddings there. Now on the left, we are going to be coming up on the Jeffersonville Library. Miss Graves must stop at the red lights, so just give us a second and we'll be past here and we'll see the front of the library. So there is your Jeffersonville Library. And just past that is the Jeffersonville Post Office. It's always busy. Now we'll be coming up on the Clark County Courthouse. This is for all of Clark County. You can find many legal things that you need to deal with there. The courts and any land issues that you have. As soon as we take the left here, we will be going past Franklin Square, which is the new Greater Clark County Elementary School that they just opened this year. And then on the left-hand side is the Clark County Jail. That's one place we don't want to see anybody going to. This is the quadrangle, and it's in downtown Jeff. There's a lot of businesses in this. It's a very old building that has been restored.
A lot happened there in the Civil War.
Miss Sarah said a lot happened there during the Civil War. We may have to look all that up. But there's also another building in the middle of this. It's like a big square. And there's a building in there that they do some of the government work from in there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, dude.
The sewer department has a place over here. There's the building. They do a lot of, I think a lot of the paperwork and stuff like that from the
City Hall.
government. Yeah, it's City Hall. It's part of City Hall. But as you can see, it's kind of a big square, and then right in the middle is this big building. So if you can't find what you need at the big courthouse, you can come over to City Hall and take care of it here. But all the way around, it's just a bunch of businesses. It's a daycare. I used to work at the daycare there. Can't see it behind the trees, but
There's a Chinese place that's good. I used to eat there.
yeah, there's a Chinese restaurant.
Try to taste. It's pretty good too.
Yeah, it is pretty good.
River
Riverlink. Oh yeah, there's a barbecue place. I forgot about that.
What?
On the other side.
It was just smoking out
We
there.
missed it. There's a little barbecue place right on the
Depot?
in the middle there. It's really good.
The depot?
Mhm. Taking you on a wild adventure today. Here are a few other places you might want to check out for fun. There's the new Escape Theater that's opened up. And then there's also New Chapel Park, which is a new park not too far off of 10th Street. It's really pretty. Got a nice pond and a nice little walkway and a shelter house. I believe the shelter house can be rented out. So there are a couple other fun things. Lots to do in Jeffersonville, Indiana.